Drugs will take you to a dark place, but there's something about methamphetamine, man, that you will meet the devil in this drug if you try. And that's the goal always, is to get as high as possible. Got kicked out for doing drugs. Now about 14, 15 years old. Came back to public school, high school, and man, that was just on a roll from there. So the high school years, just really getting into drugs, really getting in a lot of fights, and then ended up getting kicked out of there for fighting. You don't have to hit rock bottom, and if you do, you don't have to scrape your face against rock bottom. Yeah. You can use your rock bottom to start shedding light on how you're going to get out of there. I left her high and dry in so many different ways. My first daddy daughter dance was my last relapse. Sometimes that's the best version of yourself. Your mistakes are always going to, they don't define you unless you learn from them. I think a mistake can define you if you learn from it. Find your reason, whatever that is, and make it your purpose. I think a lot of us, our reason, ideally, hopefully, is our family, is our daughters, is our wife and daughters. The goal is just to pursue serving other people, and that's through faith, that's through family, that's through fitness.
Welcome to the Daughter Podcast, where fathers become everyday heroes in their daughters' lives. Grow, evolve, and lead with love. Here's your host, Oscar Pena.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Oscar here, your local growing girl dad, with another local growing girl dad that's going to help me get wild today. Mr. John Wildsmith is with us to talk about his life story, his daughter's story, and things about fatherhood. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you, sir? I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, man. So you're out in Dallas area, right?
Technically Sanger, which is just about 45 minutes north of Dallas. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Yeah, so
Denton, but yeah, we're right outside.
We're pretty close. We're like across the street ish.
Yeah.
For some of us that drive a lot, like that's real close, 3 hours away.
Not at all.
But Will, man, I've been chasing you around on Instagram, and I love what you're doing out into the world, right? And you got such an interesting story that once you and I talked, I was like, man, I can't wait to get this guy on here and give that story to the daughter community, because you are in fact daughtered, right?
Yeah.
And
beautiful 11-year-old daughter.
Right. And your story seems to really blend into how fatherhood really like changed your life. And that's really what we want to get into. But before we do that, give us a little introduction of John, where you're from, your life story, if you want to do that. We only have a little bit of time, but if you want to go long, we'll go long. Yeah. Give us a little bit about your background, and then, take us through your daughter's story from there.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So again, appreciate the introduction. So named John Wildsmith, right out here in Dallas, Fort Worth, DFW, born and raised. Had a great upbringing, beautiful mother and father. My father was a pilot for Southwest. He's retired now. He was in the Marine Corps, was a major in the Marine Corps. So, man, just a beautiful guy right there. And then my mother, same thing. She's just a wonderful woman. She's been a Sunday school teacher for 30 years. So I grew up, in the church, really in my faith, Southern Baptist. And so that was just a great upbringing. I went to private school for about the first 6 years of kindergarten through sixth grade. Started getting a little bit of trouble there. Went to Marine Military Academy. I went to middle school first, which was public school. Kept getting in trouble. Went to the military school. The trouble just really ramped up. I was down in Harlingen, so a little bit past where you're at. Okay. And then just, man, really started getting into trouble there. Got kicked out for doing drugs. Now about 14, 15 years old. Came back to public school, high school, and man, that was just on a roll from there. So the high school years, just really getting into drugs, really getting in a lot of fights, and then ended up getting kicked out of there for fighting. Went to, I forget what they're called, other high schools for getting in trouble. I mean, the name of them slipped my mind, but I, ended up going to a couple different one of those.
Like charter schools?
Alternative schools. Yes, went to a couple alternative schools. That didn't work out. Ended up getting my GED in 2008. I flew to Alabama, where my dad is from. Got some family members there. My aunt was actually teaching the GED class, which was awesome. So I spent about 6 months in Birmingham, Alabama, right outside of Birmingham. Got my GED, came back home, and then was still in the drugs pretty heavily. Ended up going to rehab 2 or 3 times back to back in 2009.
Okay.
Pretty heavy cocaine, pretty heavy in Xanax. It just, the rehab never stuck, I guess, never stuck long. One thing that did stick, and this is to this day, is this lady said, once you start getting into rehabilitation, even personal development, your bad habits, drugs, for example, you'll never do them and have fun again because of the conversation we're having. Like basically, she's like, "I'm gonna ruin your drug use now."
Yeah.
And that was at a young age, she definitely did because it was hard, man. Like once you get into drugs heavily, especially like when you want to stop and feel like you can't. I don't want to say can't because I feel like we all can if we put our mind to it, right? Anything. But yeah, once you're down and out in that addiction, you remember the things that people told you about how much you're going to hate it, for lack of better word.
Yeah.
So 2009, in and out of rehab. I was still kind of living with my folks then and around that time. And I started a landscaping business. My father helped me start a landscaping business. We did pretty good for about 2 years, from 19 to 20 to 21. And then once I hit 21, I was still in and out of my addiction between cocaine. I started doing meth at the time. It wasn't necessarily an everyday habit, but it's still pretty prevalent, that weekend warrior mentality. And then I was making good money doing the landscaping business. And once I hit 21, another friend said something very similar to that, what that lady in the rehab said. He's like, "Man, you're going to start drinking and you're just going to take off." He knew me well. You know what I mean? He's like, "I see the route you're taking. And just if you continue to go down this path, once you are able to start going to bars." The cocaine was obviously very, very much there. Cocaine never was enough for me as a youngster when I started doing meth. And he was right. I hit 21, was making good money, had a couple buddies that worked with me. And we just took off on a tangent, if you will. And so I did that for 2 or 3 years, continuing until about 22, 23. My wife and I started dating around that same time. I was very open about my drug use to the women that I dated, to my friends, everybody, because I was like, if I get in trouble or something bad happens, I've seen a lot of bad stuff happen with methamphetamine specifically. I was like, well, I was very open about it. They can't be like, "Oh, you were hiding it," or this, that, and the other happened. I was very open with my drug use. So the first night her and I actually went on a date, I kind of told her I really just did it in front of her, did that in front of her. And it's unfortunate now looking back on that, because my wife had a very hard upbringing with drugs in general. She had a lot of drug in her family. And so I couldn't imagine what her mindset was like, wow, I just started dating this guy. I like him. And, he just pulls out the big guns out, from the day, and not the good ones.
Right, yeah.
But looking back, that was something I struggle with now. We can talk about technically regrets. I heard something the other day about, not necessarily having regrets, but there are a lot of things that we look back, we could wish we had changed. And that being one of them. And so her and I started dating for about 3 to 6 months at a time. I know it's a broad spectrum. And she stuck with me. She helped me kind of through some things, but also got to a point where she could only take so much. I've seen that with her past, her mom been in prison. We've had some other family members, so she could only take so much of that. And again, I understand that. So we kind of broke it off short term. I just got deeper in my addiction at that point. And then we reached out to each other, and she was having a hard time without me. I was obviously having a very hard time without her. And so we kind of reconnected with the idea of I was going to get some help, right? As we go back to rehab, my mom got involved at the time with, getting me back into rehab and stuff like that. And so I did. That was January 22.
Okay.
There's a company extremely dedicated to restoring the dignity of hard work and the relentless pursuit of greatness. That company is Fuel Hunt, and I am honored and humbled to have them as our sponsor. They have built a community that is all about choosing discipline over comfort and taking pride in the journey, because comfort is a slow death. Their clothing isn't just apparel or fight gear, it is our uniform. 100% American made, Fuel Hunt clothing is a daily reminder for me and those around me that I am committed to being among the few who truly hunt for their goals. Join the movement today and wear your ambition proudly. Everybody wants to eat, but only a few will hunt. Follow the link in the show notes and use GrillDad at checkout for 10% off your purchase.
No, I'm not saying 2012.
Okay.
And so right around that time, started kind of pulling it together. And that was January of 2012. We ended up getting married that same year and pregnant. And so that was kind of where, honestly, it got worse. I think you and I talked about, with children, a lot of times that can be the deciding factor of change, right? A lot of people say I had their kid, everything turned around for them. I honestly wish I could say that was with my story. Kind of the exact opposite, bro. We ended up getting married. I asked her to marry me before we found out she was pregnant, but we found out within about 90 days of being married, maybe shorter than that. And so once she found out she was pregnant, man, it was a very hard time because her grandmother actually passed away right around that same time. We got engaged. Her grandmother took her to get her wedding dress. Her grandmother passed away
Wow.
on Mother's Day that year. On Mother's Day, my mom and her family they were going to meet. We got a phone call from her brother that morning saying that she and come home, went home. Her mother passed away. Found out a month later she was pregnant. So a lot going on at that same time. I was still somewhat in my addiction, trying to, fight it as far as just getting back to a normal life. And there for a very short period of time, I was clean and sober. She was pregnant, really white nothing, and as you will, to stay on that sobriety. And then the deeper she got into her pregnancy, I don't know if it was just a married life I got bored with, or I've worked a lot of night shifts. I was cutting concrete. I was in the concrete industry for quite some time. And so I did a lot of night work. And so that kind of played a factor in my drug use, why I started using them and the excuses that I made to do drugs, right? So she's pregnant, work cutting concrete, really just doing my night thing as far as really getting into my addiction. This is when it became an everyday thing. And so again, to the point of parenting, right? It was before my wife was pregnant that I really, really started getting into my meth addiction. I was already doing tons of drugs, having a hard time as a youngster, but this was the time when I really started doing meth pretty much, more than every day, if you will.
When you said that you kind of used the job as excuses to do the drugs, are you talking about because it's nighttime, you're like, well, I just use it to stay awake, or I use it like, is that where you're getting at?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. I knew I had the experience with the drug. I've done it for a long time. And then I got to points where working the night shift on a construction job, you have a couple of oversight, but at the same time, like not the big wave. So we were kind of out of everybody's hair, if you will. And that was the benefit of doing the night shift. I started asking for the night work. It was manual labor. We're cutting concrete, pulling out concrete blocks. It's the grunt. In my eyes, the next thing before, you start going to the oil field or offshore side stuff. It's hard. It's manual labor, and you got landscaping stuff that I do now. It's fun, but it's not as taxing physically. This was probably the most physically taxing job that I had. So we were able to do our drugs, stay out of the way. Everyone's getting on the work site at 6 or 7 a.m. and we're leaving. You know what I mean? Going home for the day. What we should be doing is sleeping, but still going off and doing our drugs for about 4 or 5 years. Being married through all this, it's hard to look back on, because when I talk to my wife about it, just in a short story, I left her high and dry in so many different ways. You know what I mean? To our life responsibilities, if you will. That's where now today we struggle, or we have our challenges of those roles being reversed, because when I was in my addiction, man, I let her have the reins of everything. Bro. And it's kind of embarrassing to say to an extent now to look at, because of how much she has to teach me to do now. Even setting up beforehand, you know what I mean? Technology, bro. Like, she's a huge behind the scenes with everything that I do. She's everything for my success to where I'm at. And so paying bills, paying all that stuff, like, she had to do all that when I'm off doing my addiction, because I was so focused on me and just getting high. My job a little bit here and there. And my unfortunate part again about the situation is my daughter wasn't even thought as keeping my sanity, other than I gotta provide. I gotta go to work. I thought I could make money, and it goes to my bank account. My wife handles all the bills. My daughter has all her stuff. I'm gonna go get high. Well, that was my mentality for almost 10 years.
Like, that was your role. That was just like, as long as I do that, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And so there was so much of that mindset that was wrong, but that was just that's where my addiction was. Everyone has a different mindset in their addiction. Some people are very technology savvy when they get in their addiction, because they tinker with this. For me, man, it was tinkering with motorcycles, crime, selling drugs. Like, that's kind of where the avenue that I took. So everyone has different mentality, but I was just so focused on trying to provide as little value to my wife and daughter as possible. Almost, you know what I mean?
Kind of like the bare minimum.
Man, and once that was just, I was an autopilot from that. I just wasn't able to look at anything else. I ended up quitting that concrete job, getting another one where I was kind of an inspector, if you will, had a little bit of a higher role. And I was able to, I got a degree in what I was doing, not an actual college degree, it was a test that I took for concrete, passed that, and I was just able to have a little bit more stature of what I felt like, honestly, because I wasn't doing all the physical labor. I was doing a little bit of inspecting, pouring concrete, testing concrete and all that. And then it came back to night shifts. That was a huge downfall for me, man. Like really talking about it, the night stuff was a huge downfall because when I was testing concrete, I had a set of skills from cutting concrete where we core drilled holes. So when the concrete was bad, we could suppress them, break them, and have it tested to see if the concrete was good. Well, to core drill those holes, you had to have a lot of prior experience with cutting concrete, or someone had to teach you that was already there. So because I had that experience, they just threw the core stuff at me. And some of that was night work as well. And so I did that for about 2 years testing the concrete, and I was just really getting, deeper and deeper into addiction. And my wife and I were talking about this before, and I got fired because they knew I was doing some shady stuff, but they also thought I was stealing, which at this time, surprisingly, I wasn't. But I was just so off the rocker, coming in and out as I want, doing everything as I please. They just kind of didn't have good oversight of me. I lost the set of truck keys. They gave me another one. I lost those. And it was just always like, okay, something's wrong. You know what I mean? Something's obviously out of whack here. And so I ended up getting fired from there. That was 2018, November 2018. And man, that was where I lost all sense of direction. Like I said, I was doing the bare minimum through my marriage, trying to take care of my daughter. But again, the first 4 or 5 years of my daughter's life, man, I wasn't into trying to be a father. I was in auto drive, if you will, being a husband and doing what I thought as a dad, like my wife changed the diapers. I'll pay for the diapers. You go change. That was the mentality that I had throughout all this. So when I got fired, the only thing I knew was to provide, right? Or that I thought I knew. Still bare minimum. It's not like we were doing good or anything. And so from there, man, that's when the crime came. Okay. Like I said, I was good at motorcycles. I was good at somewhat selling drugs, not on a big scale. I make sure to tell people that, you know what I mean? It was nothing was crazy. It was in the trenches, bare minimum type stuff. But that's all I knew other than how to provide. So I ended up getting into theft really bad, street bikes, a lot of credit card fraud, a lot of guns, kind of the same thing, if you will, selling those. And so that's when I started getting arrested, bro. In 2018, I got arrested 9 times, 9 or 10 times. I had, I think, 9 or 10 full charges. I ended up getting charged for 4. They dropped the other ones. And that whole year was just, man, I was just on a roll. First one was credit card frauds. The next one was guns, multiple different street bikes, multiple different vehicles stolen. Yeah. And then I was probably locked up a total of 3 or 4 months of 2018, in and out of county, in and out, drunk tank, if you will. And then it got to a point to where all of that time caught up to me. Like first couple probation, you can figure that out, get them dropped, right? 9 later, you're going to do some time. You know what I mean? I think they offered me 5 years at first. Luckily, I didn't have a lot of priors other than DWI and a couple misdemeanors. They didn't try and throw the book at me as far as felonies, but I racked up enough time to where, I realized the penitentiary is where I'm going. And so all of that, man, it was a blessing how it all happened through my addiction. Because if it didn't happen the way it did, who knows where I would be. And I got blessed because I started the last 2 years of my life. I started injecting. Like I started, I was an IV drug user. Let's say out of 10, 12 years of full blown addiction, I smoked it. And I would like to say I was a functioning addict, if you will. Not well enough, but I was functioning enough to where I could get by. Yeah. Once I got fired from that job, and once I really started getting heavy into crime, the smoking meth or snorting it wasn't enough. That's when I became an adrenaline junkie. The street bikes became a serious problem. I don't know what it was about. I like stealing street bikes and going 150 miles an hour, but that's where I say the adrenaline of doing meth wasn't enough. So I started injecting it, stealing motorcycles and going as fast as I possibly could until something bad happened. I had a couple pretty bad accidents from just that alone, as you can imagine. And then I was given the opportunity to turn myself in twice. The first time I ran. And then the second time, talked to the detective. He knew I stole a vehicle, told him where it was. And then he's like, man, turn yourself in. We'll let you stay the night with your wife and child. And something around that gentleman himself, I've tried to reach out to this detective, which I will probably still continue to do respectfully, just to say thank you. Um, he was very awesome, but something about him letting me stay that last night with my wife and daughter, that was when the change started, because I saw someone being nice to me throughout how bad things got.
Right.
You know what I mean? This dude was chasing me around the whole Metroplex.
Right.
When they finally sat down in the interrogation room, I'd have filed like multiple different street bikes that we stole multiple different times, was sitting in parking lots. And anybody that we would come in contact with, man, was just, it was just not pleasant, right? There was no pleasantries throughout all this. So the fact that this guy showed me some
Compassion.
some grace,
Yeah.
yes, sir, exactly, some compassion through this, made a difference. So it was January 4th, my mother's birthday, turned myself in, and then I was pretty much incarcerated for the next year. That was 2019.
And your daughter was 6 at the time?
Yes, she was 5 going on 6, because her 6th birthday, I just got out.
Gotcha.
So she was 5 at the time. And I think sobering up, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, like, who would figure take a couple days sober, like reality would kick in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That first month or two, begging to get out. Please come get me. Please come bond me out. At first, throughout that 2018, when I got arrested, I was arrested, had no bond. Finally got a bond. My pops bailed me out. And then that was like 3 months later, went back. So because I was already out on bond, I couldn't get out again. I couldn't bond out again. I did enough time, 60 days, 70 days, to where that bond was dropped or something, or we paid it off, and I was able to be bonded out. And so I'm begging, please come get me or whatever. And of course, my dad's some intelligence, my wife, my family were like, we already did. You're already back. In what instance does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
And so they didn't. And this, was going on 3 to 6 months. I got indicted on 4 charges, which is a beautiful thing, because I had 9. So they indicted me on 4, dropped the other 5. And once I started getting those indictments, I'm like, all right, this is real. They're not going to offer me probation. They're not going to let me out until, I signed for some actual time. I think they offered me 5 years at first, got down to 3, ended up signing for 2. Again, all blessing. And luckily, I didn't have any drug charges. I didn't have any meth charges. They were all criminally stolen stuff. So it was kind of a blessing that I never got, actual meth charge. So when I got those indictments, ended up signing for the 2 years. I had enough back time to where I only had to do about 10 and a half months total. I had 6, 7 months in county jail in Dane County. I went to TDC on September 11th, actually. That's kind of eerie.
Right.
I was on chain, that's what they call on September 11th. And I was there until the end of October, beginning of November. So I was in transit in the penitentiary, went to the Gurney unit, which was the actual transit. I was there for a little over 45 days. And then I got with FI1, which is basically you're out as soon as you sign the paperwork. They have multiple different programs. I was, out immediately. So I had to go to another transit unit, which is the Hutchins outside of Dallas. They put us with the G4. They put us with the people going through it. You know what I mean? Like, that's all the room that they had. So our last 2 or 3 nights, people are smoking that spice, if you will, lighting their cells on fire, bro. We're like, dude, we're just trying to get out. Please leave us.
Yeah, right.
People are real.
Wow.
Like, y'all can wild it out on your own. And so my wife came and got me with her friend, and it was pouring down rain. It was a gloomy day outside, but a beautiful day. It was. They put you in clothes that are 3 times your size. They don't care. They're kicking you out the door. And so that was where life felt like the second chance was. You know what I mean? Like, for real, because I had all this time clean, all this time just away, to where this is a fresh start.
Yeah.
And I've had multiple fresh starts. And then I was on the ankle monitor for about 60 days. Got the ankle monitor cut off. January 22nd is coming along. That's my daughter's birthday. This is where she's turning 6. And with the ankle monitor off, I was like, all right, I'm going to have a couple of drinks. Had a couple of drinks, had people over cooking out. 9, 10 o'clock comes around, everybody leaves. I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. I'm like, all right, I remember this feeling.
Right.
I remember this feeling. Ended up texting the drug dealer. I knew number by heart. You know what I mean? I didn't have it in my phone. None of that. I knew the number by heart. Hey, can you bring me some drugs? And she's like, yeah, for sure. send me the money. And like I said, I was very out of technology at the time. Like even through my addiction, a lot of people get involved in technology. I'm still learning.
Mhm.
Well, I'm like, send me the money for some drugs. Okay, that sounds easy.
Yeah, right.
Send her the money, brought it to my house, delivered. This is my daughter's I'm sorry, her sixth birthday. You know
Wow.
what I mean? Like relapsing on the day. And got high. Didn't have a pipe. I think I snorted it. Went to work. I got a job when I got out. So went to work for a couple days and I was just out of it, bro.
Yeah.
Like it was the worst, the most disgusting, grimy, down in the trenches feeling that I could feel. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Knowing I just let my family down after a year of what they call the honeymoon phase of getting out of prison.
Mm.
Oh, I'm gonna do everything different. You're locked up with all these people that are talking about changing their life or whatever. And that's the goal. You know what I mean? And so once I came to that reality, a couple of days later was the daddy-daughter dance.
Mhm.
And once we really got in the daddy-daughter dance, man, I was kind of sitting around asking my wife, begging me not to make me go,
Mm.
which was a very hard thing to say. It's very hard to be like, hey, please don't make me go do this wonderful thing. Let's go do my daughter's first daddy-daughter dance.
Yeah.
The year prior, my dad took her to her first one. I was locked up. They sent me pictures, so I got to see all
Right.
that. You know, that was awesome. And now here I am. I've been waiting for her first birthday to be sober. Got high.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for her first birthday ever for me to be sober. I got high. And then the first daddy-daughter, these are things getting like in prison, 6 months in prison, being incarcerated. I'm like, yes, I get to go see my daughter's first birthday. I get to go to daddy-daughter dance. And I got high those 2 days. Like, what? You know what I mean? Doesn't even make sense. How could you even fathom doing that? And just looking at those pictures, I guess that my wife took, especially now, but you could just see how dark things got. Yeah, I heard one of my coach specifically. I have a coach for my fitness and my business, and I heard him say the other day he saw the devil through his meth use. Man, there's nothing more true than that. You know what I mean? Drugs will take you to a dark place, but there's something about methamphetamine, man, that you will meet the devil in this drug if you try, and that's the goal. Always is to get as high as possible. So I've definitely been in some dark places from it, and it went back immediately. There's no system of, well, I can get high for a little bit and go back. Once you've been down in the dumps and in the trenches, you're immediately go back every time. That was another thing I was told, like you'll never be able to enjoy your drug. So as soon as I did it for about a week, I would say took her to the daddy-daughter dance, came back and it was that guilt. I think we talked about the other day. I wish I could say what that switch that was flipped, but there was definitely one that was flipped. And that was the game changer, bro. That was finally out of 5 years of not prioritizing my wife and child, the guilt kicked in and I was able to prioritize like family first. And I struggled with family first for a long time. I was adopted. Like I said, I had a great upbringing, but being adopted, I had any brothers and sisters. There's a little bit more to that we can get into. My wife has 6 or 7 brothers and sisters. So she's used to a big family.
Right.
She's used to family first. She's used to prioritizing her family on a daily basis and her schedule reflecting her family. Mine didn't.
Yeah.
And so it took all of this, not just incarceration, but relapse to really be able to put that first.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about my story is I get to say the daddy-daughter dance. My first daddy-daughter dance was my last relapse. Sentence that should be said together, but honestly, that was the changing factor. Like that's where all this started.
Do you look at those pictures? I assume there's some pictures from the daddy-daughter dance. And like, if I looked at them, do they look normal? But when you look at them, they look different.
We're gonna figure that out after this. But yeah, yes,
Right?
No, I'm sorry. I was going to send them to you, but I look strung out. Yeah, maybe not to the extent like I can see, but I mean my eyes are sunken in. I look sweaty. Like I think you can tell. There's a couple of them, maybe not so much, but there is one where that's what I'm kind of talking about. Sitting on a fireplace, bro. I just look.
Yeah. The reason I ask, I had a guest on, fought through alcoholism for a while, and he was always like the fun dad, right? And there's pictures of him like having fun with his kids, but he's like, dude, on those pictures, I'm so drunk. Like you can't tell, like the naked eye can't see it. But when I look at the picture, it's like he's looking at himself in that light that no one else can really see, right? And you mentioned something that really like started to spin in my brain. you work nights, right? And you almost look for the night, right? And it's so funny because I don't know where I heard this. I've heard it many times. They say that what's done in the dark always comes to light, right? And you're looking for the dark because, as you mentioned, at that point, it's no longer, you're no longer enjoying it. It's just got a grip on you. And so if you know and feel that it's not right, you're looking for the dark.
Yes.
Right? Hey, if I work at night, like no one sees what I'm doing, I'm bare minimum providing for my family. That's what I'm supposed to do. And then we're good. But that always comes to light. And to your point, sure, maybe you don't have some of those charges, but those dark times came to light in other ways that ultimately got you to where you are. All right. So that's just crazy.
100%. I love that. Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're looking for the dark for a reason.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And I just, when I think of the way that we as men look at ourselves in a picture, you're with your kid and you're having fun, or that's what the picture shows, but you're like, dude, I was not even there.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
That's huge. And that's the guilt that would just swarm me, I want to say. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because the guilt is something we feel personally. It's not something anybody else did. It's something we did ourselves to make us feel some type of way. It's not something you said to me that makes me feel some type of way. It makes me go second guess the conversation we had. You know what I mean? Because that'd be me being in my feelings about something else. It's something that we have to accept. Yeah. I can accept you said something to me, cool. All right. But I have to accept the decision that I've made. No one else around me put me in. No one else around me made me make or whatever. That's a whole nother level of shame and guilt that hopefully can change your life. And that's why I tell people all the time is you don't have to hit rock bottom. And if you do, you don't have to scrape your face against rock bottom. Yeah. You can use your rock bottom to start shedding light on how you're going to get out of there. Or you can see someone else go through something and be like, okay, I felt that type of way. I don't want it to get any worse. And that's the point of why I want to come on here and do these things, because I've seen people, I raced the rock bottom, to be honest. You know what I mean? I wanted to see how bad it could possibly get. And I see people doing that, you know what I mean? And there's so many different things. There's so many things that happen on the way that can be your aha moment. You know what I mean? Like there's so many times I could go back and tell you, it didn't have to go any further, but I wanted it to. You know what I mean? If someone would have just intervened, and not that someone would have changed my mind, but if there was something that could have been said or whatever that could have changed the way I saw things, or someone I looked up to, a mentor, I think that's huge. Those type of things are huge. If there was someone that was, I have a struggle with saying like that, because ultimately it's our decision, right? It's ultimately, it doesn't matter what you say, but there's just so many different things, avenues that we can pursue to seek help. If I would allow that help to come in, maybe things wouldn't have gotten as bad. The challenge of that is now here we are. You know what I mean? Like now we're in a beautiful place. Of course, had to get as bad as it did, but I still think that there's a fine line for the darkness to help bring out the light of other people. If that makes sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Share our stories, no matter what it is: depression, bipolar, mental disorders. Like I believe all of that stuff, it can be a dark place, and that we all have experiences to serve other people and help them come out of it. It doesn't have to be prison. It doesn't have to be drug addiction. There's so many different obstacles. The military, and some people use the lifestyle of being incarcerated as similar structure. I'm sure you've heard that before. You know what I mean? My coach, his whole team is people up in the military because the structure the same. You have to teach yourself the same type of discipline to work out, to program possibly, or to program yourself to have that same type of discipline. And so when you're able to be around that type of community and learn from each other's weaknesses and help build each other up, man, that's the game changer. That's where our faith comes in. That's where the community comes in. And that's how we grow in our personal development. We try to isolate ourselves and just get over our problems without seeking help or serving others. I feel like that's where we get stuck. Yeah. I feel like that's where stagnation comes in.
Now, with your daughter, it's interesting how you talk about how she's not really a thought during your, we'll call it your me time, right? Like this is like you're in this dark place, and I can only imagine there's really nothing else around that you can see. The daddy-daughter dance did something to you. Did she have a direct impact to that at that day, or was it after? Like, because when you and I were talking, you mentioned like your daughter ultimately got you to where you are. So
Yes.
what was it that day, or after that day, whatever that time frame was, that she did that may have helped you to do that?
Seeing her innocence, the smile and the innocence and her obliviousness to what was going on. You know what I mean? It's like I could just see how happy she was, just how emotional she was throughout the situation. And I was so hardened and calloused. Not that I didn't care at that moment, but I didn't have the feelings and emotions at the time because I was high to feel those things. And I was just kind of run away from the situation instead of embrace being present at that time.
Yeah.
And that's where in everything that I do is in personal development is about being present and bringing a situation so that way you can learn from the journey. And that was part of my journey, but I wasn't able to enjoy it because I was so distracted by my own selfish ways. And I was just, and honestly, it's not even I was thinking about necessarily leaving. I was still thinking about getting high. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to leave too. A huge part of me just wanted to leave. I was in a crowd of people. I already don't like a ton of crowd of people. Tons of kids running around. She wanted to run around with her friends, so I was just stuck there in the corner. And it was just that feeling alone, not like seeing how happy she was and not being able to enjoy it with her. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I was rushing out the door. She was trying to be present in the moment with her dad at her first daddy-daughter dance, and I took that away from her.
Yeah. Yeah. And even her, if in her oblivion, like, you might have the conversation with her later and maybe realize that, because she's 10 now?
11.
11. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Bad public math. Sorry.
No.
Have you had conversations with her about your background?
Oh yeah. She knows everything.
Yeah.
She saw me be arrested multiple different times. We did the Zoom when I was incarcerated, like through phone calls and stuff. She knows everything. She was all about my meth addiction. She holds me to it to this day. We're very open with her about all of it. Yeah, she's seen it all. I mean, my social media, obviously, I blast all my story on there. So that was a big part of it. You know what I mean? I don't hold any of that stuff back from her. Nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's good that she knows.
Yeah.
Hey, if you enjoy the Daughter Podcast, you'll love what we've got waiting for you at daughterpodcast.com. As soon as you visit, you'll be prompted to join our new email newsletter, a resource packed with valuable insights, practical tips, and powerful perspectives straight from our podcast episodes and incredible guests. Don't miss out on the chance to join the community and strengthen your journey as a father. Visit daughterpodcast.com today and subscribe, because great dads never stop growing.
What lessons from that, now that you are present with her, what lessons do you tend to pick out more to talk to her about at 11?
So generally, this is my being, girls that they have been getting into girl drama recently and stuff. And so one of the biggest things, how do I word this, is not gossiping. Okay. Because there was I heard them there outside playing, her and her friends, and something about, I heard this rumor or gossip. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
We don't spread rumors. We shut that shit down immediately.
Right.
And so that's something that her and I, I'll take her to school and I'll say, what do we do when people are talking about each other? So to say, we shut it down. Like that's an ongoing conversation I heard that I have. Because as adults, man, there's so many people that just want to gossip and act, blah, 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 blah. And I made a post. I'm really, I think that our social media can bring a good place for us. And that was what I did. I was like, some adults need to realize, like, when you're gossiping, you're talking to other people, especially people you're close to, that's only going to fracture your relationship in that situation. It doesn't matter how much you want to pretend to be nice to somebody. If you turn around and you're going to talk shit about them or be some type of way, bro, that's just, it doesn't fly. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't fly. So that's the number one lesson her and I work on, is making sure that we're always building other people up and not tearing them down. And I think that spider webs into a whole nother way of treating people. Yeah. Because you're always making sure to build people up. Doesn't matter what the conversation is. And if you hear someone talking about somebody and you don't want to speak up, walk away. Walk away. Having integrity and loyalty. I have both those tattoos on my hands, and I think that plays a role in the way I parent, because I think having integrity in all situations is one of the most important things that we do, and being loyal. And I think that goes to how we treat other people, because if you're acting some type of way around someone and they leave, goes back to the same thing. If you act some type of way, you don't have integrity because you're not being the same person in all scenarios. And then being loyal, if you're talking about someone,
it's not loyal.
You're obviously, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I find that interesting, brother, because you were just talking about the school or the daddy-daughter dance, and there's a really cool connection there because you weren't being authentic, right? Right, because you're showing a front there. Obviously, I mean, one, it's a school dance, and I mean, let's face it, some of us knuckle draggers, we don't do really well in a school dance. Bunch of people, and you're there for her. You didn't want to be there because of all the situation that you got going on, and in a way, luckily, she doesn't see that. But realistically, I mean, probably now that you have these conversations and you're able to be open about it, like, she realizes that was a little bit of a lie for me, right?
Yeah.
But now you've taken that and said, listen, that's not what we want. We want to be actually authentic and actually present in the moment, right? And so you're taking that lesson pretty hard. I mean, pretty strongly.
Yeah. So transparency, right? Like that's the part of having integrity, being present, and also making sure that we are who we say we are. Transparency, you know what I mean? Like integrity is the same thing, making sure we don't compartmentalizing emotions is one thing, not bringing your work home, right? Like that's one thing, but also being able to explore your feelings and emotions in conversation and not just bottle them up. And I think that's a huge part about being transparent, because if you're feeling some type of way, let someone know. Your presentation is everything.
Right.
How you present it is everything.
Right.
Your response to reaction plays a huge role. And that's something I challenge myself with on a daily basis, is my response to reaction, making sure I consume the knowledge before I react. And I think a lot of that goes to how we communicate, the transparency of our day-to-day life. So many people don't want to talk about their feelings or the things that they've been through. And I feel like that's what enhances your depression, your anxiety, all of that. You know what I mean? Bottling it up. So I think transparency is key to the lifestyle that we live.
Yeah. Okay. I can't imagine that, you turned it around and it's been easy. Right. So as we talk, what's that?
I thought that was a statement.
No. Sorry. It is a statement because I'm sure it has not been easy. But there's a follow-on question. Sorry. My brain stops sometimes.
No. You're good.
What do you do to ensure that you're being present and that you're not letting the things that are getting hard, because as I mentioned, I'm sure it's been a hard road, right? How do you keep yourself from getting out of that and not necessarily going back to the dark place, not necessarily going back to the drugs, but just when stuff gets hard, like we tend to start to kind of get it within our head all over again. At least, I do, right? So stuff starts getting hard, stresses, money, whatever you're talking about. That affects how you parent. That affects how you show up. What are you doing nowadays to ensure that you're still showing up the way that you should be for your daughter?
Great question. I like how you frame that. So the easiest answer is fitness.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because that's how I refocus and recenter. Not about the weight room necessarily. It's not about growing muscle. It is always about the nutrition, but it's not necessarily just about those things. It's about making sure our mental health is on point and we're showing up to the table the best version of ourselves. Yeah. Now, where I struggle with people saying the best version of themselves, that's being present, the best version of your present current state.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't mean, to your point, things are going to be easy and you're going to be happy-go-lucky. Your best present point could be going back to what we just said, not reacting some type of way, still feeling that way, but responding differently. Even if it's not coming correct, but you're not yelling and you're saying it better, some type of way, some type of change. Sometimes that's your best version of yourself. Your mistakes are always going to, they don't define you unless you learn from them. I think a mistake can define you if you learn from it. That's what you want, right? But I think being present in the moment, which stems from taking care of ourselves, So if I may elaborate a little bit more on that, because I like that question. When I first started getting into fitness, I was really selfish. When I first got out of prison, burpees, steak, my gym routine, that was it.
Mm.
And it messed up my whole family life. And this is again trying to get out of prison, be sober, and be a normal individual, but I was so selfish about it. Now that I've been able to have my family life design, or I'm sorry, my gym around my family life, and it doesn't take time away, I'm able to really focus on that present moment and become the best version of myself and do that before 7 a.m. And so now that I can focus on becoming the best version of myself daily before I approach my family in the world, that's where the mental health side of things, I think, kicks in. So I'm able to use the gym to focus on my personal problems on my time. That doesn't take away from my family, but I get right with myself, I get right with God, and then I approach the world. Because if not, the world's going to kick me in the teeth every time.
It does.
And so by making sure that I'm working on the best version of myself through my family, through my faith, through my fitness, that's how I stay present in the moment. And I struggle with that, to be honest.
I think we all do, brother. I think, you know, if you don't, then you're either really good at compartmentalizing everything, or you got a lot of people doing things for you and you don't have to worry about it. And most of us, I don't think, have that kind of pull and money to be able to do that.
Yes.
So no, that's a great answer. I also recenter in fitness. I also, you know, I'm getting older, go to physical therapy, and they're like, hey, you should stay off of this, or don't do any exercise for a week. And I literally am like, let's find another answer, tape it, do something. I'll take it easier, but it ain't happening, because for me, the fitness is my therapy. I can go in there, I can push, I can think, I usually pray after, because I'm like, my anxiety is kind of lowered down after that workout. So I can pray after, but it's something that for me is a non-negotiable, right? It just is. And for me, that is the way that I can better show up, like you said, for that day, whatever that day means, my best self. That's what I'm trying to do, right? And so I completely understand that, and finding that nice balance is also important, because you're right. Like, I was doing that too, man. I was getting off of work, and then I'd have an hour in the gym, whether it's a garage or just another gym. But I also would like ask my daughters to just let me be, right? Now, if I have to do that, if for whatever reason I couldn't get to the gym, like something showed up or whatever, and I'm in the garage, like, I ask them to be in the garage, right? Hey, you want to work out? Cool. There's some weights. You don't want to work out? Cool. You want to hang out? There's this in the music. You can put whatever music on. I'll just work out. You put whatever music on. As long as it's not, you know, Taylor Swift, and I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
100%.
Luckily, you know, I think my kids are the only ones in our neighborhood that know who Nirvana is and Foo Fighters. So they choose wisely. So, but I'm saying, like, making them part of that and still allowing myself to get my therapy down and then show up for them. That's incredibly important. And that's something that you're doing now for other men, right? So tell me a little about that.
Man, that's the goal. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I find purpose through all of this. That's why I say content with a purpose, because I feel like we have to show up our best selves for ourselves and our family, but also to walk with other people through our faith, through our fellowship, to help guide them and also seek guidance. You know what I mean? I have a mentor through my church that, man, he's just been game changer for everything I do. He's just so helpful. I know when I have a problem or an issue, if it's family related, I go to him and he gives me good, godly advice.
Right.
So that's a huge role in making sure that we're seeking guidance, but we're also able to give out correct guidance, make sure we're giving good advice. And I think that's where our faith comes in. So now, man, the goal is just to pursue serving other people, and that's through faith, that's through family, that's through fitness. And I think it starts with faith, but our fitness plays a role in how we come correct.
Gotcha. And so is that where Wyldstyle Fit comes in?
Yes, sir. 100%. So yeah, just the biggest goal right now is to build a community of like-minded people to make sure that we're prioritizing our faith our family, and also our fitness, and then doing it in that order. Yes, sir.
All right. I like that, man. As you have it back there, let's run it. I hear you say that a lot on social media. Tell me a little bit about that.
Man, I'm so glad you asked that. I have not been asked that consistently. I have a lot of people come up to me saying it all the time. And all the time. People don't even know sometimes come and say, I love it. It was just, it's how it came off. Like we're talking about, sometimes social media can be intimidating. How you speak, how you're on camera, it can be intimidating. And I noticed other people have catchphrase or whatever. You hear a lot of people say, "What's up, big dog?" Like that's how they start the video. You hear a ton of people say it. So look, I have to have my own little catchphrase, and it just felt right. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like I was trying. It came off super easy. And I'm not a huge sports person, but the little bit that I do pay attention, let's run the play. That's the mentality of it. All right, so this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be said. This is how, let's run. You know what I mean? Let's run the play. Let's take action. How about
I like
that? That's what I mean. Let's take action. So many people want to talk. So many people want to just come on and talk. All right, well, let's take action. Let's run.
I like it, man. That's awesome. Hey, man, like I mentioned before we started recording, I'm sure there's someone out there in a similar situation, maybe not as drastic, but definitely in that mindset of dark places. What do you tell specifically a dad-to-be, a new dad, a dad that hasn't taken the role that we need to take as fathers in that situation that you're talking about? What do you tell them right now as they're listening?
Find your reason, whatever that is, and make it your purpose. I think a lot of us, our reason, ideally, hopefully, is our family, is our daughters, is our wife and daughters. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully that's the reason that we stay on the track, and then make that your purpose. So the reason that I get up and do everything I do is for my wife and daughter. But part of my purpose is just, to your question, is helping other people come out of that dark place. So the reason I do what I do, as far as get up, do my routine, share my story, that's to provide value to other people, but also to provide value for who I am as an individual, for my wife and child. That purpose stems from that as well. You know what I mean? It's a lot of it is just that personal development. So find your reason, whatever that may be. If you don't have a family, if your reason is to go to college, make money, whatever, like find whatever reason that is and make it your purpose so that you can provide value for other people. Find your reason, make it your purpose, and provide value. I think that's the most important thing we can do as individuals. And if you are a man of faith, start there. Start there. Get into your faith. God will help point out the reason that you need to survive, to live. Hopefully it's not just surviving, but he will provide the answer that you need to become the best version of yourself, and then make that your purpose.
Great, man. Thank you for that. Tell us a little bit of where we can find you. I know you're in social media, but I know you got your site going up. You got a bunch of other stuff going on. Give us a little bit of that so we can make sure to get our listeners out to you.
Yes, sir. Please. And I appreciate that very much. So TikTok, Wyldstyle Fit. And same thing on Instagram, Wyldstyle Fit. And if you have a hard time finding that, which you shouldn't, John Wildsmith. But Wyldstyle is spelled WYLD with style. So Wyldstyle.
All right. You guys can see it there in the background. And also we'll have it all linked up at the bottom of the show notes. So it'll make it easy for you all to go find John and get to running everything that we need to do in our lives. So John, man, thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you very much for just opening up with your story, brother. I can't imagine that it's easy to think through and go through that as you talk about it. But I know that it's going to provide value here for the daughter community. So yes, thank you so much for being with us, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for your time and let me share my story.
Yeah, brother. It was my pleasure. For you guys, I know that this is a lot of information that we can all use, even to just put it in perspective within our current lives. So I hope you guys took a lot out of this, and we will see you on the next one.
This has been the Daughter Podcast. Be sure and share this show with a friend. Like, subscribe, follow us on social media, and leave us a review. For everything Girl Dad, head over to daughterpodcast.com. That's daughterpodcast.com.